Do I maybe have romantic feelings towards Engage's weapon designs? Yes? Fire Emblem Engage is such a beautiful and polished looking game, and I'm so happy they continue to raise the bar in 3D Fire Emblem since Path of Radiance. And yeah, I know that art direction will always be a somewhat divisive topic given FE's habit of switching up the lead artist and directors, but there are some design elements that have always been part of the aesthetic package of a Fire Emblem game, but are less talked about than something as broad as art direction. Cool stuff like choreography of animations, how things like stat menus and combat forecasts fit with the overall look of a game's art direction, sound effects and jingles, and what I want to talk about today, weapon icons and models. The history of the presence alone of weapon icons, and by extension item icons, but those aren't as cool to be honest, and their presence in battle is weirdly fascinating to me, perhaps to no surprise coming from the guy who made a video about secret codes in Fire Emblem and a bunch of random trivial bullshit of the series. In the Famicom era, things were simple. You had little white icons denoting what something was. They did their job and that was it. FE3 was the first to have custom icons, and their detail and polish would continue to evolve throughout the Super Famicom era, with Thracia 776 being nuanced in this aspect. Tomes went from open book sprites into a book or tome cover with unique designs. In battle, some weapons were recolored and others, like the King's Sword and the Hammer, were significantly different. The GBA games took a step back from Thracia, with the sole exception to in-game weapon sprites being javelin and hand axes and legendary weapons. And of course, you have the always visually impressive magic animations, which I think the GBA games, Sacred Stones especially, peaked at. I had never played FE5 at that point, so I can't say the downgrade of weapon sprites not being visualized in battle made me miss the progress FE made in this aspect, but I've always loved the hammer. Such a raw weapon icon. And whenever I go back to the GBA games, I still like to imagine that when someone like Dorcas equips one, he's just slamming a hammer down on the opponent. Path of Radiance took this to the next level with not just more elaborate weapon icon designs, but new classes of weapons too, and through the use of 3D models, had custom weapon models for every weapon in combat. The series would once again go backwards with the DS games in not displaying unique weapon models, but it is cool to see the FE3 weapon icons get a modern touch. Awakening pulled out quite a few stops, bringing back weapon icons with new designs we've never seen before that really stuck out, and brought back weapon models as well. This was the first 3DS game, and it looked decent for what it's worth. Fates, meanwhile, literally just removed weapon icons entirely but kept models. Echoes really brought the heat though. Never before were weapons this detailed. Things like glowing aura around legendary blessed and devil weapons. Shields were also very cool and 3D looking. There are tons of items like objects and food. On top of this, the in-battle models were understandably the most polished of the three 3DS games. Echoes really knocked it out of the park for this one. Three Houses took a step back, like Fates. Weapon and items were generic icons, but the details were in the weapon models themselves, which were all decent. The heroes' relics are the champions here, of course. These weapon designs are raw as hell, but it would have been really cool to see them in weapon icon form. Oh, wait a second. We can't.
I'll strike you down! This is it! Your defeat was inevitable.
Fire Emblem has historically gone back and forth with this, but this is where Engage just puts it all together. From observing these icons, the first major thing to understand is how much more freedom Engage has in being creative and detailed with these weapons. Fire Emblem Echoes packed a ton of detail, but were constrained to a 20 by 20 pixel canvas. They made the most of it for sure, but Engage had over 3 times the amount of space to use. Indeed, instead of 20 by 20, this game had 64 tile wide by 64 tile high pixel canvases. The Famicom and the GBA games had color and size limitations, with the latter having 15 colors plus a background color to use, and a small space of a 16 by 16 square. Echoes had a slightly bigger square with unlimited colors. Engage naturally makes the most of its basically zero limitations and packs all of these sprites with incredible detail and fantastic coloring. So many generic weapons have gone from a distinguished weapon icon with maybe a different color into extremely raw designs. Killer weapons have always always been unique and cool, being pretty aggressively designed to showcase its high offense nature. Past games simply decorated them red, with a couple of nice touches here and there. It got the point across, sure, but now they're elaborately stylized into these crimson red, jagged weapons that look badass. And it pays because their in-game model is beautifully rendered.
Relax!
Target sighted. Attack! Very intriguing results.
The S-rank weapons are packed with such detail that make them so much more distinguished than their normal counterparts. They genuinely look like legendary weapons. They all feel so badass to equip and use. Engage fills the gap with the lacking Heroes relics too. Granted, they're not one-to-one colored due to the nature of Engage weapons, but it's a bit of a showcase of what could have been, I suppose. Engage weapons, in general, are, in my opinion, the most gorgeous models in the game. We don't often see these models on their own, but through the weapon menu in the ring chamber, we can see just how much polish went into these. Fire Emblem Heroes provided stylized weapon sprites that matched the originals, but Engage, through its own stylish designs, also provide further flash to them. There are weapon types that are just alright. Things like scrolls are just that. Staff designs are pretty neat, but they're also, in my opinion, just that. Heavy weapons in particular, though, are unique, especially for blades and heavy axes, as they're just really extra instead of just being thicker versions of their normal selves like in previous games. Finally, you have tomes, which have always been pretty elaborate icons. Instead of the upright icons, these are diagonal to match with the rest of the sprites in the game. They're serviceable, with some looking really cool like Obscurité, Thani, and Volgano. It's evident that the point of this video even existing is because of the weapon icons and swords, axes, lances, and bows. These small details have no bearing on gameplay, but they add charm and do contribute to the experience of a game, and its immersion. To me, it's stuff like this and the quality of battle animations that determine if I want to further engross myself in a game by watching animations play. And that is one of Engage's many strengths as a gameplay experience. The gameplay itself is obviously fantastic, but all these added flares like what this video is about, these flashy, over-the-top animations, even other things like how each character has their own prepare for battle animation in the combat forecast. Engage has set the standard for this aesthetic dynamism, and they better push it for the next title. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please leave a like and comment down below your thoughts on Fire Emblem Engage's weapon designs and which Fire Emblem Engage weapon you like the most. And once again, if you want to help support the channel, you can always leave a subscription, or if you can afford it, you can become a channel member as well. Thanks for watching. Deuces.